and welcome to Light for Life. If you are returning to our channel, thank you. We value and appreciate you. Our aim is to shine a bright light on your inner splendor and assist to connect you to your magnificence via what we intend to be enlightened sharing, potentially educational and hopefully entertaining information, as well as encouragement for new perspectives. If you are new here, you are most welcome. We do hope that you will find our content highly beneficial and enjoyable. I am Liss. I'm a Science of Mind practitioner and a teacher of various healing modalities applicable to all aspects of the self and this life.
And I am Lori. I am a holistic wellness researcher and educator. Welcome to Connections with Liss and Lori. We use this space to offer our perspective regarding multiple different topics that we certainly hope you find inspiring.
Today, Lori and I are going to be discussing the clairs. Now, no, these are not ladies you've never heard of. These are usually considered spiritual gifts. So what are the clairs? How do they function? And what can we discuss about them? Well, before I go into that, I need to bring it back to this 3D reality and our physical senses, because that is what the clairs are linked to. So we all know the 5 senses of sight and hearing and smell and taste and touch. But we don't only have 5 physical senses. Sense number 6 is our thoughts. Sense number 7 is our emotions. Sense number 8 is our gut instinct. And sense number 9 is our intuition. So all 9 of these physical 3D senses have a higher energetic counterpart. And that higher energetic counterpart comes to us from a link to the higher 4th dimension or 5th dimensional levels of perception. These abilities and these senses exist within a broader perspective of light and energy. And it can be a practice to learn how to connect to them more and use them more. So just like physical sight is a tiny spectrum of the potential visual spectrum within 3D, when we expand to 4 or to even 5D perspective, our visual spectrum can expand as well. And we can be clairvoyant. We can see light and energy from a broader perspective. It can happen with our hearing to become clairaudient. It can happen with our emotions to become clearly empathic. It can happen on the level of our intuition, in which we actually develop psychic abilities. And when we have developed all 9 of the clear senses, they are met in their summit at clear cognizance, which is the ability to just know without knowing how or why you know. But you just know, and it's certain. So that is the journey from just experiencing life with 3D senses, or learning to experience more of a broader perspective, until eventually we are receiving wisdom straight from the greater energetic field that exists outside of ourselves, but is ourselves. And that wisdom can drop straight in, whether that is as warnings, guidance, or even full-on downloads, channelings, as people call it. More often than not, that is what is coming through. It's just an aspect of our own knowing that exists within a broader perspective.
Beautiful. And I would agree that sometimes we do get a little locked into what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch physically, and we completely shut out anything outside of that little tiny box. And a lot of reasons why we might shut these things out is simply because we don't even know they're a thing. You know, maybe this is really new information to people that didn't even know that beyond our physical body, we have all of these energetic bodies, and we can, you know, technically we could probably have 16 different senses, right? It's just more. It's just a little more because it's outside of the box and outside of the body. And I think where people get a little shaky is when it conflicts with religious beliefs or society beliefs. I think a lot of people tend to confuse what happens just a little outside of our physical body with things that can be a little dark. You know, I know that there are a lot of people who, if they believe in the Bible, they cannot believe in these abilities. And they believe that they are from a place we shouldn't be tapping into. So I do hope to clear that up a bit. Like you said, it's really just tapping into these aspects of ourself that are ours. They are ours inherently. And it really doesn't do us any good to ignore them, because sometimes it can really be a dangerous situation. You mentioned that sometimes we can receive warnings. And that really hits home for me, because even as a child, I could sense things that I knew were not okay. And I had really no explainable reason for knowing why this situation was probably not good. This situation was probably going to result in an injury. Don't go there. Don't take that ride. Don't walk on top of the monkey bars. These things that will sometimes come to us that we can't really understand why we know or how we know, but we know for certain. There's no shadow of a doubt that we know for certain that I smelled this, or I saw that, or I heard that, or, like you said, there's warnings that will keep us safe. And to ignore that, in my opinion only, is really a shame. It's beautiful to tap into our self that's just a little bit outside of our physical body.
Yeah, it's a shame, Laurie, and it's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a loss to us. And, little children are born with this perfectly intact.
Mm-hmm.
They're born with all of these faculties working for them, because the little child is so vulnerable here in this 3D reality. And then they are actively discouraged from exercising and retaining those.
Mm-hmm.
They are actively taught that it's wrong or bad or scary or evil. And that is honestly such a pity.
Yeah.
And I think what could help people perhaps to change their perspective and their view on that is to stop thinking of themselves as being in 3D reality.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And 4D and 5D and greater, lighter dimensions as being outside of the physicality that they perceive themselves to be in. Because the truth is, from a physics point of view, we just perceive a 3D reality. And we have the ability to perceive a 4D reality.
Mm-hmm.
And we are moving more and more towards a 5D perception. It's all just perspective. It's all just perception. And it's more light that we are learning to embody when we flow with the natural flow of these gifts. It is nothing outside of ourselves if we don't give that permission. If there is evil, if there are other entities, and this is what you believe in, then part of your belief system also is that you can shield yourself from that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your belief system also is that your God, whatever name they go by, is greater than that force, not so?
Important point to
And
mention.
books like the Bible are replete, replete with omens and dreams and miracles
Yeah.
and things that cannot be physically explained.
Yeah.
We were told you'll do greater things than these, better than these. And as you believe, so it will be to you. And on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And the most famous psalm ever quoted, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, what am I going to do? I shall fear no evil, even though I'm in the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah.
So how much more if I'm in the fifth dimension, I shall fear no evil? Because I think God said, I didn't give you a spirit of fear. So what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? My child, you are the light.
Yeah.
You dissipate the shadows. But why cut yourself off from the information and the help and the blessing that is available to you in the light? Because you think the shadows are scary? We are here to dissipate them. And we do that by bringing more light in. So I don't need to be dismissive of anyone's faith.
Right.
But I
Right.
would offer that perhaps it's a little bit of a misinterpretation to see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And perhaps it's worth exploring that maybe it's not something to be afraid of. And maybe we are more powerful than we know. And maybe more miracles are available.
Yeah.
And we have abilities that we haven't explored. Maybe.
Maybe.
Just a suggestion.
And I have a curious mind. I have a very curious mind. That's one thing that I never grew out of as a child. I had a lot of questions, and I still do. And I appreciate that about myself. That's one of my favorite qualities, is that I have a lot of questions and I love to learn. And when I do come across something that I don't understand or I've never seen before, there was a time many years ago that I participated in a church service at a place that I had never been. And there was a room separate from the main room where it looked to me like people were, I was afraid. I was afraid because I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand what I was seeing. And what was happening was they were speaking in tongues. That freaked me out. So I went into the other room and I asked literally every question I had. Help me understand this better. Help me understand what I'm seeing. Help me understand what they're doing. Help me understand. And they did. It was fantastic. But to someone who had never seen that before, in my opinion, that felt really dark and really freaky and really scary. And to them, it was light. It was them channeling what it was that they were, whatever it was that they were receiving. So in a way, there's no difference. It's all about the perception and all about the understanding and all about the teaching. And ultimately, I feel it's all about what we resonate with to be true.
Exactly. We can only connect to the stream that our consciousness is in.
Yeah.
And that stream will have its light side and it will have its shadow.
Mm-hmm.
There is never a time that our consciousness is not going to connect to the shadow aspect of the stream that we're in.
Yeah.
Every stream has its shadow because this is a world of duality.
Yeah.
We can't spend our lives trying to avoid shadow, Laurie. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's utterly impossible. So no matter how low we keep our stream of consciousness, it's going to have a shadow.
Right.
And in fact, the lower the stream of consciousness, the more intense the shadow because of density. So the higher we go in consciousness, the lighter the shadows become. So perhaps that motivation. But yes, in what you were saying, I thought of a point that I wanted to make, and I can't remember what it is. So what I'll say instead is that all of these abilities can be developed. They can be practiced and they can be strengthened and they can be grown. And it usually begins in the simplest little ways that are honestly not scary. So, for example, The ability to be clairvoyant and actually see things and see visions can be developed with a practice as simple as attempting to remote view, using your mind to go to a place in imagination that you've never been and literally have a look around there, see what's there, see what you see, and then go on to, that fancy Google thing
Yeah.
with the maps and the cameras and what have you,
Yeah.
and go and have a look at how accurate you were in doing that. And you can actually exercise that muscle of being able to see beyond your normal physical vision. Same with clairaudience, being able to hear literally audibly outside of your ear. Guidance starts with something as simple as listening to the inner little voice, learning to pay attention to your intuition more and more, and listening to that little voice that goes, hang on, wait, what was that? Why? And the more you listen to it, it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. That little voice is not actually a little voice, and it loves to be listened to. But they are the simplest ways, easiest ways to actually develop these gifts and strengthen them for ourselves. It can be fun. I see it as play. Let me play around with my ability to empathize. Let me play around with feeling things that I'm not actually touching. Let's play. It's fun.
It can be fun.
One of the things that I've always personally had, if I can share a little bit personally here, there's a lot I could go into personally, but I won't. I'll just share this one little anecdote. And that is that I'm so not a visual person at all. I am not a visual person at all. So I don't, and I never have, see visions, see things, see auras, see, I don't. I see nothing. But I learned to connect to people's auras and what color they are by being able to taste them. When I connect to your energy field, I will know that your energy field is predominantly orange because I taste orange. I know what orange tastes like. And I also know if it's not a healthy orange because it's ick. Yeah. And so that is where the clairs can also cross over.
Right.
And, the one can be in this beautiful dance with the other. And you can sound crazy when you say that, like, I know how olive green, the color, not the fruit, tastes. And yet it is literally a real experience.
Yeah.
Can connect to somebody, and there's so much information in that connection. Where potential illness in their body is, where blockages in their energy field might be, purely based on the ability to connect tangibly like that. So that's just one of the ways in which it might be fun for people to explore.
I've never heard that. Thank you for sharing that. I've never heard of somebody doing it quite like that. That's actually pretty cool.
I must admit, I've never heard it either. I honestly have never heard of anyone else who can do that. I'm not trying to say I'm the only one. I'm sure I'm not. But I don't think it's something that is spoken about very much because I've never come across it.
Well, and I think it's just your individual symbolism, right? So your symbolism for perhaps somebody's aura being orange would be a fruit. That's your symbolism. And I think that's how a lot of these gifts come through as some kind of symbol, right? Or, a lot of times for people, their symbol of love is a rose, or their symbol for a garden might be a flower garden, although the person that they're tapping into or the person that they're working with might have a huge vegetable garden. Either way, it's their symbolism for what that represents. Or
exactly, yes.
Like somebody might smell cigarette smoke, and when they're working with someone, they realize that their parent may have smoked for many decades. It's just
Yeah.
the symbolism that'll come through that can take a minute to learn to interpret. But once you
Yes.
understand a lot of this is symbols, what do
Yes.
those symbols mean for you? You can translate that for another person. You know,
Yes. Exactly.
they might have never even thought of their dad in a way that, oh yeah, he was a smoker, but they thought of their dad in so many other ways
Yes.
that wouldn't
Yes.
have been the first thing they thought of, but that's what opens the
Yeah.
door.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly, Laurie. And it's an adventure.
Mhm.
It's an adventure. You know, we came from the stars. And as much as we love being here and experiencing this 3D experience, how magical isn't it every now and then when we can connect back to the stars that we are? To me, that's a sparkle moment. And it's so, so special when we can actually save that in our hearts. To be fully grounded in our body, to love this life, and to yet be able to make that absolutely magical connection and flow that starlight in and through us as love and as power and as light and as magic. It's an adventure.
Thank you for connecting with Light for Life. If you appreciate reminders, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can receive those notifications. If you would like to work with one of us, you can find our contact information in the About section of this channel.
Yes, thank you for connecting with Light for Life. Please share your insights, your questions, and your comments with us in the comment section below. We value your feedback. And we really hope that we will see you for our next episode. We upload one every Thursday. Until then, bye-bye and be joyful.
Until we connect again, we send you love and light.